Trade secrets are no longer plan B. Trade secrets are the new patents. Trade secrets are the fastest growing intellectual property right. European trade secret litigation tends to focus, at the moment at least, on commercial information. Trade secrets are a priority, if not the one priority in your company today. So here we are. So Trade Secrets Hub. The idea behind this is that trade secrets are the fastest growing intellectual property right. Trade secret case law is moving fast and developing all the time. It's one of the fastest growing areas of litigation. And just staying on top of it is actually quite difficult. Not even the least that although they're catching up, most patent and trademark attorneys are not attending to trade secrets. They are traditionally focused on registering patents and registering trademarks. And although they should be, in my view, not all of them have encaptured trade secrets properly. So to some extent, it's underserved. Now, without a trade secrets program in your business, you are going to be vulnerable. That's a fact. So the whole point of the Trade Secrets Hub is to bring people together, to develop a community, to bring like-minded people together, to share ideas, to share wins, to share problems, to share best practice, and to learn. So that's the whole concept. So, I mean, the areas that people are asking me about is, what is a trade secret? What is the definition of a trade secret? How does trade secrets intersect with information security and even cyber security? And how does that relate to some of the legislation that's taking place at the moment? Are trade secrets criminal law or are they civil law? And how does that vary by country? And what are the implications of that? And why are governments so interested in this? And why have governments upgraded and changed their trade secrets legislation once, if not twice, if not three times in the last 8 years? That is fast growing. That illustrates the importance that countries are placing on trade secrets for the company, the value within their companies, within their countries, and of course for the economies of their countries. Because ultimately this is about retaining the valuable, sensitive information within the right house, within the housing that it should be retained within, and not allowing it to leak and to spread. Because of course, with a trade secret, once it's leaked and once it's spread, it's no longer a trade secret. The value is gone. And so they are very fragile, intellectual property rights. But if you do set up a program and you follow the right steps, then you have recourse. You have the capability to defend and recoup damages and get people to cease and desist, to have some form of legislative action over the company practicing that particular intellectual property. So very powerful, increasingly powerful. For example, case between the US and Korea, two Korean electronic vehicle battery manufacturers were having a trade secrets dispute. And that meant the International Trades Committee wouldn't allow the importation of these batteries, the exportation from Korea, the importation into America of these batteries, which meant the US electronic car production was grinding to a halt because they didn't have any batteries, or enough batteries. So this was such a substantive issue that Joe Biden got on the phone to his counterpart in Korea and basically said, I really need you to sort this out. Apparently $2 billion exchanged hands. The issue was resolved and battery manufacturers could continue importing their batteries into America, and their car production facilities were not slowed and delayed, and production continued as normal. So it's high level. Injunctions are important. The thing about trade secrets, though, is that it's really difficult to contain it within one department. You can't really have a proper trade secrets program without involving HR, without involving legal, without involving R&D and engineering and commercial, without involving information security and cyber security, GDPR. It touches all of these different areas, and that in part is why many organizations haven't sufficiently grasped it. So, the key statements I'll make is that every business depends on trade secrets. But how many of those businesses could defend those trade secrets in court? The general answer is not many. And one of the partners at Clifford Chance recently went on record saying, Donald McCombie went on record saying, for me, it's quite surprising how few companies have any kind of formal process for trade secret protection. The companies who really pay attention to trade secrets are often the ones that have been through an expensive dispute and want to avoid a repeat. The costs of taking proactive steps to preempt a dispute are far lower than the costs of enforcement litigation. That's understating it, isn't it? When you get to litigation, there's only one winner, and that's the lawyer or the lawyers. And it's going to cost you a lot of money. Whereas putting together a trade secrets program in advance and taking the steps necessary to identify and protect your trade secrets, really important. If you're not doing this, then if you're not taking the steps to identify your trade secrets, then the reality is that somebody else will identify the value in your trade secrets. They will be leaked, they will be lost, and they will be taken advantage of by somebody else. To some extent, you're protecting your competitive advantage here with your intellectual property, yes, but with your trade secrets as well. And if you are not identifying your competitive advantage and protecting it, valuing it and protecting it, then there's a very high chance that it will be misappropriated, either deliberately or by error. We talk about the insider threats being one of the major threats for your business, and yes, I think 20% of that insider threat is malevolent. The vast majority is just mistake. It's just error, just not realizing, just oversharing, just not knowing where the red line was, and actually giving too much information away. We're all designed to share and to talk and to contribute and to give information away. And if we haven't been advised, educated, instructed, trained to know where that red line is, to know where I can't go beyond, then I will go beyond it. I will share that sensitive information. We've all been there. We've all probably done it. So you might say, well, so what? What's the issue? What's the value? Well, the issue and the value is that some of this information is share price moving. If you're a quoted company, it's incredibly valuable and will be valuable in the hands of your competitors. It's not just about major corporations. This is not just about major corporations. This applies to the smallest of businesses. Patents, trade secrets are the new patents. Well, patents are incredibly useful to any business. Okay, but you need to go into patents with very, very eyes wide open. To understand what the strengths and weaknesses of the patents are, and that it is a quid pro quo. You are revealing your invention publicly in return for 20 years monopolistic rights. But unless you register that patent in many countries, and nobody's ever going to do that, so it's too expensive, then you are revealing it to the world. So the quid pro quo is, I'm revealing that invention to the world. I'm not sure how many inventors recognize that fact. I'm just getting UK protection, but it's fine therefore, because I've shared it, that a Dutch inventor entrepreneur starts to use my invention, because that's the patenting system. You do need patents. You can't exist without patents, but patents have been substantially weakened, and especially in the United States in the last 10 years. You won't believe me when I tell you this, but it's a fact that of those patents that are challenged at the inter-parties review, or the PTAB, the Patent and Trademark Appeals Board in the United States, of those that are challenged, and bear in mind that if I'm going to accept a challenge, if I'm going to accept that duel at dawn, that somebody's thrown the gauntlet down, that I'll pick it up and accept that fight, I'm going to think I've got a fair chance in that fight, right? I'm matching swords with swords or pistols with pistols. Well, bear in mind that if I'm going to go and have my patents examined, I'm going to go to that duel, I think I've got a good chance. So bear that in mind. Of those patents that go before the Patent and Trademark Appeals Board. 19%, 19% come out of that process intact, meaning the rest are damaged by the process. Some are whole beneath the waterline and they're no longer valid as patents. Prior art's been discovered that wasn't discovered before. Claims have been analysed and found to be not valid, not relevant, not valid. So they're knocked out. That throws into question the whole patenting system, right? So you have to balance that out. You can't just rely on patents. You can't just rely on trade secrets, but trade secrets are a fundamental part of invention protection. Take Mary Berry in her cake making. She's 89 years old. She's absolutely incredible. She's been on our screens and in our literature for decades, for all my life, baking the best cakes ever. And she still is on television, judging and contributing. But what she doesn't know with those 89 years, I'm sure she didn't bake cakes when she was 0. You know, there's 84 years, 85 years of cake baking experience. It's not worth knowing, right? Whereas me as a naive, I've baked 10 cakes in my life, never going to match her expertise. Now, the recipe, we might consider the patent. And when we're up against each other in that cake baking competition, you know who's going to win. Because in this rather dull, rather cold actually for a summer day, a little bit humid weather and conditions, and the old Arga that's oil fired and is a little bit temperamental, and has got some hot spots and some cool spots on those copper pans, and that kind of granular flour and that kind of creamy butter, and that availability of types of eggs and whatever it is, she will adjust. She will make fine adjustments, and I'll just carry on as normal. And her cake, therefore, will be far, far, far better than mine. Intuition, possibly you can call it that, but it's based on experience. Now, some of that, if the recipe is the patent, some of what I've just described, that know-how, that expertise, possibly could be captured as trade secrets. So, for example, in these atmospheric conditions, using that particular cooker, she knows that you need to put it in at that temperature. She knows you need to put it in for 48 minutes, 30 seconds, whereas the recipe says 55 minutes, for example. Now, so the patent says one thing, but the trade secret actually is that no, under these circumstances, it's slightly different. And so there's always trade secrets associated with the patents. It's just that oftentimes they're not explicit. Now, there are tools available now that will crawl through your patents and identify just what I just described, those ranges in temperature, for example, and start to pull out patents. And that, I think, is really valuable, because nobody really wants to sit down and go through their existing inventions, technical, commercial, sensitive information, and identify what could be a trade secret. In part because it's difficult and it's a bit of a burden. Whereas if we can get tools, and there are tools coming, and there will be tools that are available much more widely shortly, of course, using AI, then we can start to identify all those trade secrets. So some fundamental things going on within the trade secret space at the moment, which lead me to believe that it's quite important practitioners to share information and to commune and to learn from each other, and of course to identify best practice. So what is best practice? What is a best practice trade secrets program? Who do you get involved? What do you do by way of contracts? What is an NDA, and how does that apply to trade secrets? And what is the biggest weakness in all NDAs with regards to trade secrets? And what happens if I don't actually do my trade secrets program? What if I still just sweep it under the carpet and don't bother? Does that really matter? Well, probably does, because you're probably taking a judgment call there. I'll get around to it internally. But what if you're accused of trade secrets theft or misappropriation? And the way things are going, you've got an increasing chance of that happening. So what if you are accused of trade secrets theft? Partnership. You had a partnership. they're saying that you took their ideas and you capitalized on that idea in whatever way, shape, or form. Well, if you've got a trade, believe you me, if you had a trade secrets program in place that had actually identified that particular trade secret as yours, documented, date stamped, the whole set of procedures in place, then you've got an evidential route to demonstrate that you had it at a certain point in time. And therefore, in theory, hopefully, if the case plays out that way, you had it before the other party. So you can't be accused of trade secrets theft. But if you don't have that, the lawyers are going to have a field day because they will spend a fortune trying to gather the evidence for you, absorb all of your time anyway, 10 times, 100 times the time it would have taken to set up a program, cost, high profile issues throughout the company. You don't want it really. Doesn't that cost that much to set up in advance? It certainly costs a lot later to try and recoup losses, if you can. As I've said already, once the trade secret's gone, it's gone. So actually, therefore, it comes back to my other point. What's the role of the employee, and what is the role of training? Well, the role of training is fundamental. Your first and last line of defense with trade secrets is your people. So what is it you can do to get your people on board? And bear in mind that we operate in maybe we're coming out of it, but we're coming out of, therefore, of a cultural shift that sort of identified IP as the enemy, patents, copyright as the enemy, and free to use and open source and open innovation were the right ways forward. So there's a cultural consideration within some organizations, sometimes software businesses, whereby we don't believe in patents and we don't believe in trade secrets and we don't believe in the whole IP thing. That's an enemy of you retaining value in your business, because open means leaking. Open means sharing. Now, I'm building a community here, the Trade Secrets Hub, to share, but I'm not asking us to share, believe you me, our trade secrets. I'm asking us to share the approach and the process and the concepts. We might discuss a trade secret in metadata terms. This is what it does. This is quite valuable to us, but we're not going to talk about it in its exactitude. Correct. We're not sharing that sort of information. You have to consider how this plays out in your organization, because if you can get a workforce that's on board, that understands IP, that is identifying IP, that values IP, that defends and protects IP whilst they're employed and after they're employed with your business, bang, you're in a much stronger position. But how do you build that culture? How do you get people engaged without them feeling like, oh, they're just trying to reverse engineer me. They're just trying to take what's valuable, the stuff that's in my head. It's a really difficult one, because I've been involved in CRMs, customer relationship management systems, over many years. And the salesperson believes that information is his, and that's his USP, and that's his value should he go to the next business. That's what they're buying him for, his little black book, right? Concept. Well, that might be the case, but if it's defined otherwise in that person's contract, then actually it isn't, and that black book becomes something that can be protected by trade secret. So the culture and the training of employees is really, really important. How did I get to this, and why am I even bothering with this, and who am I? John Pryor, my company's Exalt IP. I've been doing trade secrets for nearly 10 years. I've been doing IP, focused on IP since April 2001. So nearly 23 odd years. And I've got a background in business, and I've worked at some of the biggest consultancies, Accenture and EY. And I've worked at some of the biggest companies, Procter & Gamble. And all of these companies recognize and value intellectual property. And I was a scientist. I have an MBA, but I was also, my first degree was biochemistry and physiology, and I worked in the labs. And I saw science in action, and I recognized the value in the science in action. And I always thought there was value in what the engineers and the scientists were creating, the PhDs were creating, that oftentimes didn't see the light of day and was never monetized. Although a fair amount of effort and money had been spent on generating, it was never monetized. So that's why I got into intellectual property, and I've been doing that, say, for 20 odd years now, 23 years, and trade secrets particularly for nearly 10 years. There's tremendous value in your business. I can guarantee that if we looked at your business today, irrespective of the business, 80% of the value of your business would be intangible, most of which will be protected by intellectual property. Yes, of course, we can define, I talk about intellectual property as brand, reputation, innovation, creativity, and knowledge. It's a very broad definition. It isn't just patents and trademarks. So if you take it within those 5 elements, brand, BRIC, B-R-I-C-K, brand, reputation, innovation, creativity, and knowledge. If you take it within those 5 elements, there's a very broad spread. Customer relationships sit in there, customer contacts sit in there, contracts sit in there. And if you look at all of that, I just worked with a company and they've been sold. And we analyzed the balance sheet and we said, well, we can identify a fifth of what was just being paid for your business on the balance sheet. That's not bad. So there's another 4/5, another 80% that's not identified on the balance sheet. What is it? What have they bought? Why have they bought your business? They haven't bought it just for that 1/5. They bought it for the 4/5. So what is it? And a lot of it was expertise and know-how and, industry leadership and having strong supply chains and having a unique market position and having done some research that creates a very strong potential future, etc., etc. So, a lot of that is difficult to protect with patents and trademarks, right? Can you protect software with patents? Yes, you can. Actually, you can, but it's difficult. Following 101 Alice in the United States, it's difficult in the States. It's more difficult in Europe, but less difficult than in the States. And it's more difficult in the UK than anywhere to patent software. But you don't want to necessarily patent everything. So how are you going to protect that software? Sure, you probably do need patents, but you're not going to patent everything. And some of that you will protect with trade secrets, and some of that, the code. Potentially, you might protect with copyright. But of course, if you protect it with copyright, then in the States, you have to, you can redact parts of it, you have to register that. You have to share that, probably not publicly, but you have to register it with the USPTO. So that's a weakness and a risk in itself. Whereas trade secrets, you're not registering. They're not a registered right. You're retaining those rights within your business. You're not actually sharing them with anybody at that point in time. The Coca-Cola recipe, allegedly, is it apocryphal? We don't know, but it's been around for over 100 years. Not really been shared with anybody. The Iron Brew in the UK, the secret recipe of 32 different ingredients for the fruity fizzy drink that beloved by the Scottish people. Made of girders, made of iron girders. Known by 3 family members. Held in a safe in Switzerland, etc., etc. You can retain a trade secret for a number of years if you try, and if you take the steps. There's commercial value to those trade secrets, and by definition, you're asking yourself, what is a trade secret? By definition, it's something that is valuable, that confers valuable, that is commercial or technical, and is secret and is being retained. There are steps being taken to retain it, as reasonable measures being taken to retain it as a trade secret. Trade secret, very simple, very simple. You can cover your profitability information, your revenues for different products, your new product launch, secrets within the business, the recipe, M&A targets, etc., etc., customer lists, contract details, special favored nation status for pricing, etc., commercially valuable, sensitive information, technical information, inventive information, process information, efficiency information. If I do this, then how, I can improve the efficiency of that machine by 30%. Bang! That's going to save me thousands, if not millions, over the years. A trade secret. We don't want our competition to get hold of that. It's competitive advantage. Trade secret. Protect it, therefore. Look after it. So, trade secrets are very, very broad. They are your friend. They do take some establishing, some foundations to be built, some bricks to be laid down. But you've got to do it. I don't think you've got any choice. The one reason that trade secrets are your company's priority, I've given you several reasons above, of course. The one reason, though, if you're not doing it, somebody else will. And then the other reason is, well, if you're not doing it, somebody else will. What if the machines do it? What if the machines take your information that you've made public, that people within your business have knowingly made public or have made public inadvertently, use of ChatGPT, translation machines, Google search, we're just leaking it, or somebody else has leaked it malevolently, known public information. They're piecing those known points together and knitting it together to create a jumper. They're taking the bits of wool and they're knitting it together. The machines will do that now. So, for example, take Facebook. You won't find much about me on Facebook. I think I posted for a while. But if I post to say, oh, I love this kind of music, or even if I use Spotify and I play that kind of music, that's my track, then, the machine can look at that and say, well, that's interesting. People who like that kind of music are usually from this age group, this era. You may be of that age. Let's try and find some more data points. Oh, my drive to work this morning, terrible traffic at point X. Suddenly the machine knows I pass point X on my way to work. Out on my bike at the weekend, terrible potholes. Okay, there's another pinpoint. I'm revealing these information points all the time, as we all are, to the ether. And the machine can, the artificial intelligence, the robot, the machine, can put it all together. And as I say, knit the jumper, create something that's valuable from lots of disparate parts. Now, a really good analyst can do that anyway. And they, the really good analysts in the stock market have been doing that for years and making substantial money on the back of doing that, right? People can do that looking at your company, and they've done it for years. But now there's a much wider availability of information. You're a great risk that people always done it. The machines are going to do that for you. And the worst thing that could happen possibly is that the machine works out what's incredibly valuable in your business before you have and makes it public. Then you are on the back foot, and then you've lost what could be substantial value. New product launch, acquisition, Amazon's acquisition of Whole Foods. What if that came out to the public beforehand? What would that mean? Well, share prices would change. Stalking horse bidders would come in. The jackals would come out of the woodwork and buy up the domain names, the trademarks. There'd be a whole host of things going on that you don't want to happen that would impact on the value of that trade. So, keeping things secret is really important, and putting together, the foundational steps in your business to do just that has never been more important. And that's why we're working on the Trade Secrets Hub. So I'm going to call that a day today. Welcome your feedback, welcome your questions. So you can email me, john@exaltip.com. That's EXALTIP.com. Phone me 447587 or just contact me via the website exaltip.com or my YouTube station or via my LinkedIn. You'll find me if you search for me, John Pryor, LinkedIn, ExaltIP. So thank you very much. Please feel free to ask any further questions for the next version of this. Love the questions I've had so far. Anything else you want me to include, please do so. But I look forward to meeting you at the next hub in a week's time. Thank you very much. Have a great week.